Do I belong here? It's a loaded question. Some of you may have questioned your own sense of belonging even in this very moment. If we look to the dictionary to define belonging, it defines it in several different ways. One way is to be a member of a particular class, group, or organization. Many of you in this audience today might belong to a particular on-campus organization, whether it's sports, spiritual, or a social group. Another way is to be rightly assigned or classified to a specific group or category. Both definitions of the word belonging require an individual to take themselves and put themselves into a particular category or group, or to fit a certain mold, if you will. There are several times throughout our lives, big and small, where we question our own sense of belonging. If you haven't been there, you likely will at some point in your life. Some of those questions may seem minor. Which filter on my latest selfie will make me look the best? Others may be larger. Should I have attended this college or university? Am I in the right major or career path? Where is my place in this world? Let me share with you an important piece of information. I use a wheelchair. For most of you, it's something you probably noticed within the first 5 seconds of my talking. Much of society will inherently assess a person's ability to do a particular task or to participate in a particular activity based on their appearance. For me, this has always been in the back of my mind growing up as a child with cerebral palsy, which some have said is the coolest of all the palsies. What you may not also know about me is that I'm a competitive swimmer. One may think that the use of your legs is an essential component of swimming, but I challenge you to take what you think is an essential component to your ability to belong and push past that. When I am in the water, I use the mantra, no kick, no prop. I didn't really realize how much that mantra would help me until later in life, but more on that later. One of the first places I felt like I belonged was when I found Paralympic swimming. An article in Sports Medicine and Arthroscopy Review entitled Impact of Adaptive Sports Participation on Quality of Life points to several positive benefits around the impact of participation in adaptive sports besides the obvious physical benefit, so I knew I wasn't alone. I remember the feeling of utter disbelief when I walked into my first Paralympic swim meet. I looked around the pool deck. For the first time in my life, I was around a group of people that looked like me. Everyone was swimming. Everyone was moving in the water, whether they had one arm, one leg, 2 legs, or no use of their legs at all. Everyone had a passion for sport and for using sport to change people's perception about disability. Here, I didn't have to defend myself or prove that I was more than my disability. I was who I was because of my disability. I was Laura. I could truly fit my own definition of belonging, the ability to authentically be oneself. However, that's not always been the case. Let's go back to 2002. I was a freshman living in Franklin Hall, taking freshman seminar, and stuffed an entirely too many large mini cookies in my bag to eat for later. I exited the campus center, awkwardly trying to push my wide walker and backpack through a narrow door opening without having the door shut in my face. Feeling a sense of accomplishment for making it through the opening largely unscathed, I walked past the white gazebo in the center of campus. I could feel my walker wheels rattling under the hard brick. It dawned on me, as far as I could see, there was no one on campus who used a wheelchair or walker or jumped at every loud noise within a 5-foot radius. How was I supposed to feel like I belonged when the feelings inside of me and even the very infrastructures of the buildings felt like they were holding me back? What holds you back? Do you let it keep you back, or do you choose to move forward? Despite all those realizations, there was an ever so small voice inside of me that whispered, "You belong here." That human need to belong isn't unique to me. One of the great psychologists, Abraham Maslow, lists the human need to belong in his hierarchy of needs right above our basic physiological needs like food, water, and safety. One can't reach the top of the hierarchy, self-actualization, without first belonging. Humans need to belong. It's no wonder that voice told me to keep going. It's that same voice that I heard before my first 1500 freestyle, the mile, when my coach at the time told me my freestyle didn't look quite normal. Hashtag no kick, no prop. It was that voice that helped me find activities on campus that I enjoyed and go on alternative spring break. Then after 4 years of creating that new way of life, developing that new sense of belonging, I found myself on the graduation stage. Like every student, I felt a mix of trepidation and excitement graduating from college. I worked for a bit, did AmeriCorps, and went to graduate school. Upon graduating, I was ready. From the moment I was young, I always felt like I belonged as a teacher. I loved kids and was good at connecting with them. However, throughout my entire educational journey, I never had a teacher with a visible physical disability. I had been met with phrases like, "Oh, just try a little harder," as if my ability to manipulate a protractor was in direct correlation with my effort. Have you ever had someone tell you no and it fueled you to want to do something even more? This was me. It was my place and my time. Then I started interviewing for jobs and was met with phrases like, "We don't hire people like you," or "Your students could knock you out of your wheelchair." I distinctly remember interviewing for one job. It was at the school district central office. I drove around looking for the accessible entrance. Must have just missed it, I drove around the back to look for a place to park. I got out of my car and transferred into my wheelchair. After more unsuccessful attempts at locating some semblance of an accessible entrance, I stared at the large flight of stairs in front of me. I picked up the phone and called the secretary. I was there for an interview, and I needed someone to carry my wheelchair up the stairs. I sucked in my pride as 2 members of the interviewing team came out, carried my wheelchair up the stairs, me walking out of my dress shoes, exposing my bare feet. I don't remember much of that interview except for feeling exceptionally angry and feeling like I had to overcompensate to show them that I belonged in their district. There were several other times throughout my educational journey to become a teacher, whether not being able to eat in the second floor teacher lunchroom to not having an accessible place to pee. They were seeing in me all the reasons I didn't belong instead of all the reasons I did. What if they were right? What if teaching wasn't for me? What is an area in your life where you've questioned your own sense of belonging? What if the very reasons people tell us we shouldn't belong are the very reasons we should? It isn't always immediately obvious, but someone or something is looking to you to help them validate their own need to belong. You might not know that someone or something in that moment, but you will someday. Use those moments of struggle as fuel to keep going. You will find your reasons why. What do you do when you don't have an accessible place to pee? You take a page out of your swim book and pee in the proverbial pool. You figure it out, even when you feel like you can't anymore. Hashtag no kick, no prob. I currently work at Perkins School for the Blind in Watertown, Massachusetts. I truly belong. I am seen for who I am and what I have to offer. In my work with students who are 14 to 22 and have visual impairments and have additional disabilities, I find I have the responsibility to speak up, help them find their own way of navigating the world, and develop their own sense of belonging. On more than one occasion, I have been asked by my students, "Laura, why do I have to advocate for myself? It's exhausting. Will things get any better?" Like I tell my students, circumstances in your life may always be difficult, but as I've gotten older, I've begun to develop my own sense of belonging, a how-to guide, if you will, for becoming yourself, even when the world says otherwise. Number 1, small ripples make a big impact. For me, one of the first times I felt like I belonged was when I found Paralympic swimming at age 28. I'm now 36 and still swimming, which in the swimming world can seem ancient. I'm certainly not the youngest in the pool, nor am I the fastest. However, that doesn't mean I can't use swimming, something seemingly small, as a conduit for change over time. If one were to watch me swim, the most obvious observation is I don't use my legs, hence the hashtag no kick, no prop. In the sport of swimming, much of the power behind your stroke comes from your kick. It moves you forward in the water and propels your stroke. However, if you don't have that use, you find other ways to propel you. For me, it's my arms. Eventually, those small movements forward add up to an impact you might not even know on those around you. Most of us may not win that gold medal or do something newsworthy in our lives. However, each of us can do something small to contribute to our own sense of belonging and create an impact years down the road. In the process, you begin to find the things that were supposed to hold you back are in fact the things that will propel you forward and help you find your way. Hashtag no kick, no prob. Number 2, find people that will help you amplify your voice. For me, after a series of difficult circumstances, navigating as an educator with a physical disability is my current employer who has helped me amplify mine. In my work with students with visual impairments who have additional disabilities, I find I have the responsibility to speak up, amplify other people's voices who may not be heard, and help them find their own path. Through my own experiences with discrimination and accessibility, I now combine pedagogy and empathy to teach a new generation about belonging. In 1979, Yuri Bronfenbrenner said that the relationship between the teacher and the student allows the student to develop his or her own sense of belonging. For me, this goes hand in hand with the content that I teach. In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act, a landmark civil rights act that provided some protection under the law for people with disabilities, was passed. How can my students truly understand this piece of landmark legislation and the conversation about belonging it sparked if I don't cultivate the space for them truly to belong within the walls of my classroom? I try to do this in everything that I do, from modeling that it's okay to have a tough disability day, to facilitating discussions around the freedom and strength that come from authentically being you, even in a world that says otherwise. This allows true learning for my students beyond just the walls of my classroom. Number 3, be confident that you will find where you belong. Trust yourself as you navigate moments of doubt and keep developing your own sense of belonging. As we think about this and collectively move forward, we don't have to fit the current definition of belonging. We can create our own mold. We can find our own places. The world needs you and your unique abilities. If you take away one thing from this talk, just remember, no kick, no prob. Thank you.